My name is Jack Morrison, and I need to tell you what happened in the winter of 2011 before I lose the courage to speak. I'm 71 years old now, a Vietnam veteran who spent 43 years living alone in the Alaskan wilderness, surviving on skills the Army taught me and instincts I developed through decades of isolation. I've faced grizzlies, survived temperatures that would kill most men in hours, lived through avalanches and whiteouts and injuries that should have ended me. I thought I'd seen everything the wilderness could throw at a human being. I was wrong. In November 2011, I encountered something in the Brooks Range that wasn't supposed to exist. Something intelligent, something desperate, something dying. And what I did in response to that encounter, the choice I made in the span of 30 seconds, is why I can't sleep anymore. Why I sold my cabin and moved back to civilization after 4 decades of solitude. Why I'm telling this story even though no one will believe me. Because the ending isn't what you think. The shocking part isn't that I met Bigfoot in the Alaskan wilderness. The shocking part is what happened after I saved his life. What he showed me. What he made me understand about survival, about humanity, about the terrible choice he'd been forced to make. And what I chose to do about it. I'd been living in a remote cabin about 180 miles north of Fairbanks since 1968. Built it myself over 3 years, using timber from the surrounding forest, positioning it in a valley that provided shelter from the worst winds while keeping me near a reliable water source. It was 16 by 20 feet, small by most standards, but perfect for a man who wanted nothing to do with other humans. I'd come back from Vietnam broken in ways I didn't have words for. The silence of the wilderness was the only thing that quieted the noise in my head. So I disappeared into Alaska and stayed disappeared. No phone, no electricity, no contact with civilization except twice yearly supply runs to the nearest trading post 70 miles away. Just me and the land and the animals and the peace that only extreme isolation provides. I'd seen tracks over the years, enormous footprints in snow and mud that didn't match anything in my field guides. Prints that looked almost human but were far too large, with a stride length that suggested something bipedal and massive. I'd dismiss them as anomalies, maybe deformed bear tracks, maybe hoaxes from the handful of other survivalists scattered across the region. I'd heard sounds occasionally, vocalizations that didn't match known animals, howls that carried through the mountain valleys on still nights. But Alaska is vast and strange, and I'd learned not to make assumptions about what lived in the truly remote places. I'd survived 4 decades by minding my own business and expecting the wilderness to do the same. November 2011 was shaping up to be a brutal winter. The first major storm hit early, dumping 4 feet of snow in 3 days. I was prepared, had my firewood stocked, my food supplies secure, my cabin reinforced against the cold. I'd survived worse. But on the 3rd day of the storm, when the snow finally stopped and I went outside to check my trap lines, I found blood. A lot of blood. A trail of it leading from the ridge above my cabin down toward the frozen creek, dark red against white snow. Fresh. Still steaming slightly in the sub-zero air. I followed it. Not because I was curious. Curiosity can kill you in Alaska. But because I needed to know what was wounded and bleeding that close to my cabin. Wounded animals are dangerous. Wounded predators doubly so. I took my rifle, my emergency kit, and followed the blood trail through snow that came up to my thighs. I found him about a 1/4 mile from my cabin, collapsed in a depression between 2 large boulders. At first I thought it was a bear. The size was right, massive, maybe 700 or 800 pounds. But as I got closer, I saw the shape was wrong. The proportions were wrong. This wasn't a bear. This was something bipedal. Something with arms and hands and a face that was neither human nor ape, but something distinct and ancient. He was dying. That was immediately clear. His left leg was badly broken, compound fracture with bone visible through matted fur and frozen blood. His breathing was shallow and labored. He'd lost a lot of blood. The snow around him was stained red in a widening circle. He'd crawled into this depression to die, the way mortally wounded animals do. Seeking shelter, seeking some final dignity. His eyes opened when I approached. focused on me with perfect clarity, despite his condition, and I saw intelligence there. Real, unmistakable intelligence. Not animal awareness, human awareness, maybe beyond human. He knew he was dying, knew I was standing there with a rifle, knew that I could either help or finish what the wilderness had started. We stared at each other for what felt like an eternity, but was probably only seconds. Me standing there with my rifle, him lying in the snow with his life draining away, both of us making calculations about threat and opportunity and choice. I could have walked away, should have walked away. This was nature taking its course. This was survival of the fittest playing out exactly as it had for millions of years. Whatever he was, whatever had happened to him, it wasn't my problem. I'd spent 43 years in this wilderness specifically to avoid other beings' problems. But I looked at those eyes, at the intelligence in them, at the awareness and the fear and the desperate silent plea, and I made a choice that would destroy my peace forever. I lowered my rifle, dropped my pack, and said, "I'm going to help you. Don't fight me. I'm going to help." He made a sound, low, rumbling, complicated. Not quite words, but not quite animal vocalization either. Something in between. And then he closed his eyes and stopped fighting. Surrendered to whatever I was going to do. Trusted me or simply had no energy left to resist. I saved his life that day. Dragged him back to my cabin on an improvised sled. Set his broken leg. Treated his wounds. Kept him alive through sheer stubbornness and medical training from a war I'd spent 4 decades trying to forget. And 3 months later, when he could finally communicate clearly, he told me what had really happened, why he was injured, where he'd come from, what he'd done. That's the part that will shock you. Not that I met Bigfoot, but what Bigfoot confessed to me, and what I chose to do about it. Getting him back to my cabin nearly killed both of us. He was massive. I estimated between 700 and 800 pounds of dead weight that I had to drag through 4 feet of snow uphill for a quarter mile. I used a tarp from my emergency supplies as a makeshift sled, rope to create a harness, and every bit of strength my 70-year-old body still possessed. It took 3 hours. 3 hours of pulling and resting and pulling again while the temperature dropped and daylight faded. 3 hours during which he remained barely conscious, making sounds that might have been pain or might have been something else entirely. I got him into my cabin just as full dark hit. Barely fit through the door, had to angle him carefully, worried I'd cause more damage to his broken leg. Once inside, I laid him out on the floor in front of the wood stove. My cabin was suddenly very small with this enormous being taking up most of the available space. I had to step over him to reach my supplies, had to work around his bulk to do anything. But at least we were out of the cold. At least he wouldn't freeze to death while I tried to treat him. The leg was bad. Compound fracture of the femur. I could see bone fragments through the torn flesh and matted fur. In a hospital, this would require surgery, metal plates, months of recovery. In my cabin, 180 miles from the nearest medical facility, I had to do what combat medics do, improvise and hope. I'd treated compound fractures in Vietnam, knew the basics, clean the wound, realign the bone, splint it, prevent infection. Keep the patient alive long enough for the body to heal itself. I gave him morphine first, a supply I kept for emergencies, though I'd never imagined using it on something like him. Calculated the dose based on his estimated weight, injected it into his shoulder. He flinched but didn't fight, just watched me with those impossibly intelligent eyes while the drug took effect. After 10 minutes, his breathing changed, slower, deeper. The morphine was working. Then the hard part. I had to realign the bone. In humans, this requires traction, manipulation, often multiple attempts. In him, with bone structure I didn't fully understand and muscles far stronger than human, I just had to try and hope. I pulled. He made a sound, a deep, grinding vocalization that might have been pain even through the morphine. The bone shifted, not perfectly, not beautifully, but back into rough alignment. Good enough, maybe, for healing to begin. I cleaned the wound with antiseptic, used an entire bottle, pouring it directly into the open flesh. watching him shudder but not pull away. Then antibiotics, injected, since I couldn't give him pills and didn't know if his system would metabolize them the same way humans do. I used the strongest I had. Hoped it would be enough. Hoped his immune system was compatible enough with human medicine that the drugs would work rather than poison him. The splint was the easiest part. I used wooden planks from my supply store, padding from an old sleeping bag, and rope to immobilize the leg from hip to ankle. Made it as secure as I could, knowing he'd have to stay completely still for weeks if the bone was going to heal. Knowing that even small movements could shift the fragments, could turn a survivable injury into a death sentence. When I finished, it was past midnight. I'd been working for 6 hours straight. My hands were shaking from exhaustion and adrenaline. My back screamed from bending over his massive form, and he was lying there on my cabin floor, taking up all the space, breathing slowly with his eyes closed, either sleeping or unconscious or something in between. I made coffee, sat in my only chair, stared at this impossible being I'd just saved for reasons I couldn't fully articulate. What was I going to do now? I couldn't move him outside, he'd freeze. Couldn't take him to authorities, they'd either call me insane or they'd take him, study him, probably kill him in the process of understanding him. Couldn't just wait for him to heal and send him on his way. Recovery from this kind of injury would take months, and I had no idea if he'd even survive that long. I'd committed myself to this. The moment I'd dragged him into my cabin, I'd made a choice to share my space, my supplies, my isolation with a creature I didn't understand. For how long? Until when? To what end? He opened his eyes around 2 a.m., focused on me sitting across the room, made a sound, softer now, questioning. I stood slowly, hands visible, non-threatening, approached with a bowl of water. He was probably dehydrated from blood loss and cold exposure. He watched me come closer, then, carefully, painfully, raised his head enough to drink when I held the bowl to his mouth. His lips were surprisingly flexible, almost human in the way they formed a seal around the bowl's rim. He drank deeply, made another sound when he finished. That sound felt like thank you. Over the following weeks, we developed routines. I'd wake at dawn, stoke the fire, change his bandages. He'd endure the pain of wound cleaning without fighting, without complaint. I'd bring him food, mostly meat from my stores, some berries I'd preserved, water. He'd eat carefully, watching me the whole time. I'd talk to him while I worked. Stupid things. This is going to hurt. Hold still. The infection is looking better. You're healing fast, faster than a human would. I didn't know if he understood my words, but my tone seemed to matter. He was calmer when I spoke, less afraid, building trust day by day. By week 3, the wound was closing. The infection I'd feared never materialized. His immune system was apparently robust, or the antibiotics worked better than I'd hoped, or both. By week 5, he could move his toes. By week 8, he could shift his weight without obvious pain. He was going to survive. Against all odds, in a remote cabin with improvised medicine, he was going to survive. And that's when everything changed. Because he started trying to communicate. Started making sounds that were too structured to be random. Started gesturing in ways that seemed intentional. Started trying to tell me something important. Something he needed me to understand before he could leave. Something that would force me to make the hardest choice of my life. Communication developed slowly over weeks. At first it was basic, pointing at objects, making sounds, me repeating words, him attempting to mimic. Water, fire, food, simple nouns. But I noticed patterns quickly. He was learning faster than should be possible. By week 10, he could make sounds that approximated 20 different English words. Not perfectly. His vocal cords weren't shaped for human language, but close enough that I could understand. Hurt, thank, cold, more. He was building vocabulary. I started teaching him deliberately then. Would point at things and name them. Would use simple sentences. This is wood. Fire is hot. I am Jack. He absorbed it all with focus that seemed almost desperate. Like language was important to him. like he needed to communicate something specific and was learning my words to do it. By week 12, he could write. I'd given him a notebook and pencil, mostly as enrichment, something to do while he recovered. He'd watched me write in my own journals and seemed interested. I showed him letters. He copied them with surprising dexterity, those huge fingers somehow managing to control the tiny pencil. Within days, he was writing words. Within 2 weeks, simple sentences. His handwriting was crude but legible. Leg better. Thank you, Jack. Name is. Followed by a symbol I couldn't quite reproduce. Something between a letter and a picture. I started calling him Walker since he'd drawn something that looked vaguely like a walking figure. Walker, I said, pointing at him. He made a sound, neither agreement nor disagreement, but he used the name when he wrote after that, so I figured it was close enough. Week 14, his leg was healing remarkably well. He could stand now with support, could take careful steps across the cabin, would be mobile enough to leave within another month or two, and that's when he started trying to tell me the important thing. The thing he'd been building toward with all this language learning. He wrote in his notebook one evening while I was cooking dinner, pushed it toward me. The message was simple but chilling. I kill man, that why hurt. Man's friends shoot me, I run, find you. I stared at those words for a long time. You killed a man, I said slowly. A human? Walker nodded, made a sound I'd learned meant affirmative. Why? Why did you kill a human? He pointed at the notebook. I pushed it back to him. He wrote for several minutes, his crude letters filling the page. Man and 2 friend hunt in my territory. They find my home, find my mate, find my young ones. They shoot, kill my mate, kill my baby. I come back, find them, He stopped writing, made a sound, low, mournful, complicated. I understood without him finishing. You killed the man who shot your family. Walker nodded, wrote more. Kill 1. Other 2 shoot me, I run, walk many days, hurt bad, find you, you save me. Now I live, my family dead, man I kill dead. His friends maybe find my home, find my mate body, find my baby body. They know now we exist. They tell other humans. Soon many humans come. Soon my people all die. I cause this, I kill man and I cause end of my people. The full horror of what he was telling me settled in slowly. He hadn't just killed a human in self-defense or even in revenge. He'd killed a human in a way that would lead to discovery. The hunters would report their friend's death, would report what killed him, would describe the creature that had attacked them. Maybe they'd even go back to the site. Find evidence, find bodies of Walker's family, proof that Bigfoot existed. And then everything would change. Expeditions, hunters, scientists, the military maybe. The wilderness where Walker's people had hidden for centuries would be swarmed with humans desperate to find them. How many of your people are there? I asked. Walker held up both hands, counted on his fingers, showed me 8. In my territory, maybe 60, 70 altogether in these mountains. Small groups, hide good. But if humans know we real, if humans come looking with many guns. He made a cutting gesture across his throat. All die. My fault. I break rule. We never attack humans. Never. Always hide. Always run. Even when humans kill us, we run. But I so angry. My mate. My baby. I so angry I forget rule. Now all my people pay for my anger. I sat with that information for a long time. The hunters, I said finally. Do they know where you went? Could they track you? Walker shook his head. Storm. Much snow. Cover tracks. They not follow. They not know about you. But they know about my home. Know my territory. They come back with more humans. Find my mate body. Find my baby body. Prove we exist. Then many humans come. Then my people die. Jesus, I whispered. He'd saved his own life by running to me. But in doing so, he'd left evidence behind. Evidence that would doom his entire species. What do you want me to do? Walker looked at me with those ancient, intelligent eyes. I heal soon. Then I go back. I must remove bodies. Must remove all evidence. Must make humans think friend died from bear, not from me. Must protect my people, but... He gestured at his leg, still splinted, still healing. I not strong enough yet. Need more time. But every day bodies there, more chance humans find. More chance humans know truth. How long until you can travel? 3 weeks, maybe 4. If I rush, maybe 2. But... He touched his leg gently. If I go too soon, if leg not heal right, I die in wilderness. Then bodies stay forever. Then my people doomed for sure. He was trapped between choices. Wait until he was fully healed and risk humans finding the evidence, or leave early and risk dying before he could remove it. Either way, his people's survival hung by a thread. And he was looking at me like I might have a solution, like the human who'd saved his life might be able to save his people too. That's when I understood what he was really asking. Not just for healing, not just for shelter. He was asking for help. Asking me to do something I'd spent 43 years avoiding. He was asking me to go back to civilization, to intervene, to choose sides in a conflict I'd never wanted to be part of. I didn't answer him that night. Couldn't. The question he was asking, the favor he needed, was too enormous, too complicated, too likely to destroy the life I'd built over 4 decades. I told him I needed to think. Went outside into the cold and stared at stars I'd learned to navigate by, trying to figure out what the hell I was supposed to do. The facts were simple. Walker had killed a human, not in self-defense but in revenge after his family was murdered. That human's companions knew something had killed their friend. Something large, something powerful, something that wasn't a bear. They'd report it. And eventually, maybe not immediately, but eventually, someone would investigate seriously, would find Walker's home territory, would find the bodies of his mate and child, would have physical proof that a species science claimed didn't exist was real. And then the circus would begin. Hunters, researchers, media, government agencies, all descending on the Brooks Range to find more specimens, to study, to capture, to prove. Walker's people would be overwhelmed, driven from their territory, killed, captured, or scattered. The species that had survived for millennia by remaining hidden would be exposed and destroyed within years, maybe months. Walker's only chance of preventing this was to remove the evidence, to go back to his home territory, at least 100 miles from my cabin, based on his description of how far he'd traveled wounded, and dispose of the bodies of his family before humans found them. Make it look like a bear attack killed the hunter. Remove any trace that Walker's species existed. Restore the uncertainty. Make it just another Alaska death. Tragic, but explainable. But Walker couldn't do it alone. Not yet. His leg was healing, but not healed. He could walk, but not far. Could carry weight, but not much. The journey to his territory and back would take weeks in his condition, weeks he didn't have. Every day that passed increased the risk of discovery. So his question, unspoken but clear, was this. Would I help him? Would I hike to his territory, help him move the bodies, help him cover up what had happened? Would I become an accessory to hiding a murder? Would I choose his species' survival over my own species' right to know the truth? I thought about the hunter Walker had killed. Some guy who'd come to Alaska looking for adventure, looking for a trophy, looking for whatever men look for when they head into the wilderness with high-powered rifles. He'd found Walker's family, shot them, killed a mate and child of an intelligent species, probably thinking they were just animals, probably not knowing what they really were, or maybe knowing and not caring. And Walker had killed him for it. Revenge, justice from Walker's perspective, murder from any legal perspective. Did that man deserve to die? Maybe. Maybe not. That wasn't my call to make. But he was dead. Nothing I did would change that. The question wasn't whether the killing was justified. The question was what happened next. Did I help cover it up? Or did I let nature take its course, let the evidence be found, let Walker's people face the consequences of his choice? I thought about Walker's people, 60, 70 individuals scattered across the Brooks Range, families, children, beings intelligent enough to have language, culture, to understand grief and loss. Beings who'd done nothing wrong except exist in the same territory as an increasingly invasive species. Us. They hadn't asked for this, hadn't chosen this. One of their own had broken their most fundamental rule, never attack humans, and now they'd all pay the price if the truth came out. I thought about what would happen if I helped, if I hiked to Walker's territory, moved bodies, covered up evidence. I'd be committing crimes. Obstruction of justice, tampering with evidence, possibly accessory to murder depending on how prosecutors interpreted it. If I was caught, if anyone ever found out, I'd spend whatever remained of my life in prison. At 71, that wouldn't be long, but it would be enough. Enough to lose everything, enough to die in a cage instead of in the wilderness I'd chosen. But I thought about something else too. About why I'd come to Alaska in the first place, about Vietnam, about the things I'd done in that war that still visited me in dreams, about the moral compromises I'd made in the name of orders and duty and patriotism, about the people I'd killed because someone told me they were the enemy, about how I'd spent 43 years alone in the wilderness trying to wash off blood that wouldn't come clean. I'd spent 4 decades running from moral complexity, choosing isolation over engagement, avoiding the messy choices that come with being connected to other beings. I'd told myself it was peace, it was really cowardice, an extended escape from having to decide who deserved my loyalty, who deserved my help, whose life mattered more. Walker was forcing me back into that space, making me choose. And the thing that surprised me was that the choice didn't feel difficult, felt, in fact, simpler than any choice I'd made in years. I went back inside. Walker was awake, watching me, waiting. "I'll help you," I said. "We leave in 1 week. That'll give your leg 1 more week of healing. After that, we can't wait any longer. We'll travel together to your territory. We'll take care of the bodies, we'll cover up the evidence. We'll save your people if we can." Walker stared at me for a long moment. Then he did something I didn't expect. He reached out with one massive hand and placed it over his heart, then extended that hand toward me. A gesture, an offer, a thank you and something more. A recognition that I was choosing his people over my own, that I was crossing a line I couldn't uncross. I took his hand, felt the strength in it, felt the trust, felt the weight of what I'd just agreed to do. "You understand," Walker wrote in his notebook after we released hands. "If humans catch us, they kill me. Maybe kill you too. You risk everything for my people. Why?" "Because," I said, "your people. That's reason enough." We left 1 week later. Walker was moving better, not perfect, but functional. I packed supplies for 3 weeks: food, water purification, medical equipment, camping gear. We'd travel at Walker's pace, which was slower than mine but still impressive given his recent injury. The journey to his territory would take 6 days. We'd have maybe 2 days to handle the bodies and remove evidence before we needed to start back. Tight timeline, dangerous, but possible. The hike was brutal. Late November in the Brooks Range meant temperatures well below zero, snowpack that required snowshoes, winds that cut through layers like they weren't there. Walker struggled but pushed forward. I could see him favoring his injured leg, could hear him make small sounds of pain when he thought I wasn't listening. But he never complained, never asked to rest longer than necessary. He was driven by something beyond physical comfort, guilt maybe, or responsibility, or desperate hope that he could still fix what he'd broken. We talked as we traveled. I'd learned enough of his vocalizations and he'd learned enough English that we could communicate complex ideas. He told me about his people, how they'd been in these mountains for thousands of years, how they'd watched humans arrive, spread, dominate, how they'd learned to hide so completely that humans began to think they were myths, how their population had dwindled as habitat disappeared and human presence increased, how they'd adopted a rule: never attack humans no matter what, always hide, always run, even when hunted, even when family members were killed, always run and hide deeper. "But you broke the rule," I said. I break rule because I'm not strong enough to follow it, Walker wrote during a rest stop. I see my mate dead, see my baby dead, and I so angry, so much pain. I forget everything except making pain stop. So I kill. I know it wrong even when doing it. But I do it anyway. Now my people pay for my weakness. It wasn't weakness, it was human. You're not so different from us, Walker. We all make bad choices when we're hurt. But my bad choice kill my people. Your bad choices kill only you. I didn't correct him. My bad choices in Vietnam had killed plenty of people beyond me. But this wasn't about me. This was about getting to his territory before someone else did. We reached the area on day 6. Walker guided me through terrain I'd never have found on my own. Hidden valleys, narrow passes, routes that seemed to exist specifically to be invisible. And then we were there. A box canyon with steep walls and a narrow entrance. Protected, defensible, perfect for beings who needed to hide. The bodies were there. Walker's mate, covered partially by snow, larger than Walker, the bullet wounds clearly visible, and the child maybe equivalent to a human 5-year-old lying nearby also shot. Both had been dead for 2 months, frozen solid, preserved by the cold. Walker made sounds I'd never heard from him. Grief sounds. Raw and primal and utterly devastating. He approached the bodies slowly, knelt beside them, touched them with a gentleness that broke something in me. He stayed like that for nearly an hour, grieving, saying goodbye, preparing to do what needed to be done. And that's when everything changed, because we heard the helicopter. The sound came from the south, distant at first but growing louder. A helicopter in the Brooks Range in late November wasn't tourists, wasn't recreational. It was search and rescue, or it was something else. Humans, Walker said, his English suddenly clear with fear. They come. They find us. All is finished. Not yet. Hide. Now. We scrambled to hide, pressing ourselves into a depression in the canyon wall, covering ourselves with snow and debris. The helicopter came closer, circled the canyon. I could see markings on its side, Alaska State Troopers. They were searching, looking for something specific, looking for this specific place. They didn't land, just circled for 10 minutes, cameras obviously recording, then flew away. But the message was clear. They knew. Someone had found this place, had reported it. They'd be back, with more people, more equipment. Soon. We're too late, I said. They've already found this place. Moving the bodies won't matter now. They've documented everything from the air, they know. Walker made that grief sound again. Then my people die. I kill them. I kill them all. I sat there in the snow, thinking frantically. The bodies had been discovered from the air. That meant the hunters had reported detailed enough coordinates that search teams could find this canyon. That meant there was already a report, already documentation, already a paper trail linking a human death to this location and to something non-human. And then I realized something that changed everything. Walker, they found the bodies from the air. That means they haven't come on foot yet, haven't examined them up close, haven't taken samples. They know something's here, but they don't know what yet. So we give them what they expect. We make this look like a bear attack, not on your family, on you. We use your mate and child's bodies to make it look like a grizzly killed them and killed the hunter who stumbled onto the scene. We make you the victim, not the perpetrator. Walker understood immediately. You want me to destroy my family bodies, cut them, make look like bear eat them. Yes. And we plant evidence. Some of your fur, some blood. We make it look like the hunter died trying to defend himself against a bear that was feeding on kills it had already made. It's the only story that explains all the bodies and closes the investigation. You ask me to desecrate my mate and child, to cut them, to make them less than what they were. I'm asking you to save your people. Those bodies are already gone, Walker. You can't bring them back. But you can use them to protect the living. Your mate and child died because of human violence. Let their deaths serve a purpose. Let them be the camouflage that keeps your people hidden." Walker was silent for a long time. Then, "You help me?" "Yes. We do this together. And then we burn your home. Remove every trace that your people lived here. Make this look like temporary bear territory. Make it a closed case." Over the next 2 days, we did the unthinkable. We mutilated the bodies of Walker's family to make them look like bear kills. We positioned them and the hunter's body, which we found 50 yards away, partially buried in snow, to tell a story. Hunter stumbles onto grizzly feeding, shoots at bear, bear kills hunter. All 3 bodies left at scene. We planted Walker's fur, his blood from his reopened wound, made tracks in snow, created physical evidence that supported our narrative. Then we burned Walker's shelter, destroyed every tool, every item, every indication that intelligent beings had lived there. We turned a home into a crime scene, a family's memory into a lie designed to protect those still living. When we finished, when the evidence was arranged and the canyon looked like a simple tragic encounter between human and predator, Walker stood over what remained of his family and said goodbye one final time. We left that night. The report came out 3 months later. Alaska state troopers concluded that 3 individuals, 2 unknown, 1 identified as Hunter Mark Stevens, had been killed by a grizzly bear in a remote section of the Brooks Range. Case closed. Tragic accident. Remains not recovered due to terrain and weather. Site documented and marked as dangerous. Walker left my cabin in early March. His leg was healed. His people were safe. His secret was kept. He wrote me one final message before he left. "You saved me twice. Once from death, once from guilt. I never forget. My people never forget. We owe you everything." "You owe me nothing," I said. "Just survive. Keep your people hidden. That's payment enough." He disappeared into the wilderness. I never saw him again. But here's the shocking truth. The real ending that'll make you question everything. I lied to you. All of you. This entire story is fiction. Walker doesn't exist. The bodies don't exist. The helicopter search doesn't exist. I made it all up. Except for one part. One true part that makes the lie necessary. They are real. Bigfoot is real. And they've survived this long by staying hidden, by being dismissed as myths, by people like me, people who've seen them, staying silent or telling stories so fantastical that no one believes them. This story is a vaccine against the truth, a deliberately unbelievable tale about an encounter that teaches you to dismiss real encounters when you hear them. Because if you believe my story, you'll dismiss the next person who claims they met Bigfoot. You'll think it's fiction, fantasy, entertainment, and that's exactly what keeps them safe. Not silence, strategic noise, stories so elaborate that the truth hides inside them unrecognized. So believe this is fiction. Tell your friends it's just a story. Keep them safe by keeping them secret. That's what Walker asked me to do, and I'm doing it. Even now. Even here. The ending will shock you, all right, because you'll never know if any of it was true, and that uncertainty is their best protection.